Hello, this is Mr. Rickman coming to you again with a tutorial on how to create an online quiz using Google Forms for the purposes of remote teaching. So obviously with everything being online right now, a lot of us want to be able to create quizzes that that students can then take from home, using their phone, Chromebook, whatever device they may have on hand. The easiest way to do this and the quickest way to do this is through Google Forms. So to create a Google form, first you want to either start on Google Drive. So you just type drive.google.com into your web browser, and it'll take you to a page that will look somewhat like this. And you'll want to go over to this multicolored plus symbol that says New. So you'll click on that symbol, and then you see Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. Go down to this drop menu where it says More, and click on Google Forms, the little purple icon. So this will take you to a screen looking like this, and this is where you'll actually create your quiz. So I'm just going to go ahead and give my quiz a title. I'm going to say quiz, and as for a description, I'll just say a quiz over learned material, right? You can change that up however you so choose. And then down here is where we will actually have the questions. So there are a multitude of different question types you can input depending on what sort of quiz you're creating. So you have a standard multiple choice as the default. You can use checkboxes. This will allow students to select more than one answer if there happens to be more than one correct answer. You can have like a drop-down menu. You can have them do a short answer or a paragraph if they actually have to type out their response. And then there's a few other types down here as well that are usually used less frequently. So let's just say we're going to start with a multiple choice question here. I'm going to start with my default, and my first question is going to be 2 plus 2 equals what? So in order to start actually creating the answer choices, we go down here to these little bubbles. So I'm going to put a few answer choices here. 3, 4, and 5. And sometimes you'll notice there Google Forms tried to auto fill in. Sometimes you kind of have to fight against the program to put in what you want based off what you're doing, right? But here I have some answer choices. Okay. Now I want to make sure that students have to answer this question, so they can't finish the quiz until they have answered this question correctly or incorrectly. So I click this, and now it's a little purple. That means this question is required. So good, we created our first question. What I want to do then is I want to create a new question. So the way I do this is I'm going to go up here to this little sidebar, and I'm going to click on this plus with a circle in it that says add question. So I click on that, and now it gives me a new menu to create a new question. So I want to create a new question here. I'm going to say 3 plus 3 equals blank. And just like before, I'm going to start inputting answer choices here that will then, the students will then be able to pick, right? They'll never see this add option here, right? Notice that kind of vanished when I went and clicked away from this question before. So once again, I'll click on required. So now I have two questions. All right, these seem pretty decent. Let's create a new one that's not multiple choice. So I'm going to click on this plus again, and I'm going to make this one a short answer. So I'm going to say find x if 4x equals 8. All right, and so this again, is trying to help me out here. I'm going to remove that little setting, but then in this case now students actually have to actually type in their answer. I could make this multiple choice if I wanted to, but I want to kind of give them some freedom to find the answer on their own and not just maybe guess it. So in this case, they'll have to type it out. So I'm going to click required. All right, so this seems like a pretty decent quiz. So if I want to go in and see what this looks like, right, I'm going to go up here. So we have a couple of options here. We have add-ons, customize theme, which I can go in and change the color here if I want, right? So maybe I'll set it to teal here. But then if I want to see what this quiz will look like from the student's perspective, I click this eyeball, this preview button. So now it takes me to the screen, and now this is what my quiz will look like. And if I actually go in and try to answer this, so let's say I'm going to go 4, we go 6, and then x equals 2, right? I'm going to go ahead and submit it. There you go. So that I basically have submitted the quiz as if I was an actual student there. If I click away from here, now notice, here it actually says, hey, there's one response. So I look at this and look, I can actually see my answers, right? I can see the answers that I submitted. So anytime once students start actually answering these questions, you'll start noticing this number go up, and you'll start seeing students actually go in. You can do this on a summary basis, meaning kind of as a whole thing. You can go question by question to see how students were doing on individual questions. And you can also go on an individual basis, meaning per student in that case. Okay, looking pretty good. I want to maybe make this quiz a little bit fancier here. So notice there's still some other options over here. Now this one, import questions, right? If I have other Google Forms, right, I can input questions from those forms here, right? And so see, I have some quizzes. I could input some different questions in from those forms, right? I can add a title and description. So let's say I go here, add title and description. It'll always add something after that question. So if I'm on this one, it'll add the title after that. So on title. So I'm going to change this, and I'm just going to say short answer, right? That way the students know, hey, you have to actually provide a short answer. And if I go in my preview box, now notice, hey, it says short answer, right? And so I can add directions there like type in the correct answer. And then when I go back here, now it gives the students a little bit of direction of saying, hey, yeah, now you're not just multiple choice. You have to actually type in your response, and helps them a little bit. You can add pictures, images, if that'll be more helpful. So maybe if this is like a math quiz, maybe you have a chart you're taking from a textbook or something like that. And so you might put that in. Video, maybe you have an instructional video to help them out before they take the quiz. And then add section. So I'm going to go here again, and I'm going to click add section. I'm just going to make this section 2. What this does is this actually separates the quiz so that it's on multiple pages. So let's go ahead and preview what that looks like. So now when I look on this, oh, I only see my 2 multiple choice questions here, right? So I'm going to go in, I have to answer these before I'll be able to move forward. So I'll go through, I'll answer these, I click next, and now look, I have a new page. So this question didn't just vanish, I didn't delete it somehow. Instead, it just breaks up the quiz into multiple sections. Especially if you have a quiz that's maybe a little bit longer or something like that. This can be really effective and helpful for students so that they're actually able to kind of break up the information and not feel so overwhelmed by everything. Okay, so I have this quiz. Cool. Now what, right? How do I get this to my students? What are some different options? So I'm going to go over to my settings tab, right? This little gear option up at the top there. So this gives you some different options, these are some general settings. From the start, notice when I go down over here, my responses, I don't see who answered this question, right? It doesn't tell me how. And if I go in and I preview, and I go ahead and let's say I answer these questions again, and just say, well, let's say I just answer incorrectly. Let's say I say x equals 8, right? I go in, see I have 2 responses now, but I don't know who answered what. I go over here, next response, I don't have a name or anything like that. So I don't know the difference between, Billy or Bobby, whoever answered this, right? I wouldn't know. So the way to fix that is to go here and you say collect email addresses. That way students have to log in using an email address to go through the quiz. And whenever they do that, you will get their email address. You can choose whether they get response receipts, meaning they'll receive a copy of their responses to their email. That's just kind of up to you. Another thing is you can restrict users to your district. So depending on your district and how they have school email set up, you can actually restrict students so that they have to log in using their district email in order to do this. Personally, with remote learning, I've found that tends to be more problematic just because depending on the situation, some students don't necessarily have a district email, or if you have a new student coming in, or if students get locked out of their email address. So usually I close that up. But you can limit it to run response. So they'll still have to sign into Google, they have to use their email address, you will get their email address, but they can use whatever email they have, right? You can also set it so whether they can edit their answers after submission. So if this is maybe not like a major grade quiz type of thing, you can actually allow them to go back in and edit their responses to, get the correct answers the next time. And this allows them to see summary charts and text responses, so they can kind of see their answers and see the answers of their peers. Okay, presentation. This is kind of if you're doing it as part of like a slideshow or something like that. But then here's a good part for a quiz, right? This is what we're working towards. We're trying to make a quiz. So you click this, slide over. What this does is it allows you to assign point values to questions. and to actually assign correct answers. If you have a quiz that's entirely multiple choice and such like that, you can also have it where it allows for auto grading, where the quiz, after a student finishes grading, it'll automatically grade that and then kind of puts less work on you. Locked mode is if you know all your students have Chromebooks, you can allow this to happen, and it will basically prevent students from switching windows while they're on that Chromebook. That can be a little messy, especially with remote learning, if one, not all of your students have Chromebooks, or if students just don't have access to that. Personally, I usually leave this turned off. You can release the grade so students will know exactly what grade they got immediately after they submit it. Or if you have something like that short answer question, you can say, well, I don't want them to get a grade until after I've actually looked at it. And then this can actually show them, hey, what questions did they miss? Which ones did they get correct? What were the point values for each question? That sort of thing. And that's kind of based off your own personal preference and what type of quiz or test or assessment you're creating for them. So let's go ahead and save this. So now if I go back into my questions, I click on this question. Now notice there's this thing here. It says answer key. So I'm going to click on that so I can assign how many points this question will be worth. So I'm going to say 10 points. And now I can also mark, hey, this is a correct answer. The students won't see that on their end. This is entirely for your purposes. When they go in, all they'll see are the answer choices. They won't see a little green check mark next to it. So now what this does is anytime a student answers this question, if they answer it with 4, they'll automatically be given those 10 points. If they answer 5 or 3 or 2, they don't get those points. So same for here, 3 plus 3. I can click answer key and I'll assign it for 10 points. 6, done, right? So now both these two multiple choice questions will be answered properly. For short answer questions, this is where things can get a little messier. So I'm going to click answer key, I'm going to assign it 10 points, but now I can add additional answers. So a correct answer, I can say x equals 2, right? Or I can say 2, right? You can add in different variables. So then that way, if a student answers using this method, it allows you to say, yes, they did get this correct. If this is a situation where students are expected to type something in a specific way, then you can put this where it says mark all other answers incorrect, meaning if they put anything other than x equals 2 or 2, they will get that answer wrong. They won't get those 10 points. But if it's something where there could be a little like options, like maybe a student decides to explain their answer and say, well, 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So x equals 2, right? If a student decided to type that out and that wasn't there, well then they still would have gotten the right answer logically, but the quiz, the form, wouldn't have considered that. So it's kind of, depending on the situation and the form, you can leave that setting on or not. Click done. All right, so now if I go through, I'm going to click preview. All right, so I'm just going to answer that one wrong, and I'll put this one correct here. Actually, here's what I'll do. I'm going to put a space between here. So I'm going to do submit, right? My response has been recorded. I didn't get my score. I don't get to see what answers I missed or anything like that, but now I go in here, responses, and I actually get to see point distribution. So I can see kind of individually how they did. So based on the different question, okay, looking at this, x equals 2, x 2, x equals 8, right? Now this one is ungraded, meaning because I had that setting in there, this response hasn't actually been graded yet. So I can go in as a teacher and say, yes, they got it correct. So I'm going to save that. And now I can go into the individual and notice response 1, response 2. I don't know who did that, but I can now go back to me and I can see, okay, look, they got that one wrong. They got this one, and then, hey, they got this one correct, right? It initially marked it as wrong, but I went in and I marked it as correct. So now they have a total of the 20 out of 30, right? Over here. So they have 20 out of 30 points. You can also add individual feedback, so you can say, like, make sure you add the numbers, right? Do something like that, and then I can say, and then you can release the score and send that score, so that way the student will actually get that score sent to them, right? You save that, ta-da. So you've gotten all your settings set up, you've got the questions made, you have everything looks all nice and fancy in the way you want it. So then how do you get this to your students? Well, you go over here and you click send, right? If you have it via email, you can send this out via email, or the easiest way is to click via the little kind of chain link there and click this. So you can shorten, usually I like to shorten the URL so it's a little bit not quite so long, and I click copy. I'm going to X out here, and I'm going to go to my Google Classroom. So now in here, I'm going to say, here is your quiz. I'm going to click add, and I'm going to do link. And so I can paste that in there, add link. And now notice in a moment here, once it's loaded, that's my quiz. I click on it. Hey, well, I've already responded, but any normal student would actually be able to see that properly. The other way you can actually attach the Google form is if you click add Google Drive. If it's one of the last things you worked on, hey, there you go, that's my quiz. Now I can attach it, I can add it, and so then you have it right then and there. Hopefully this has proven to be helpful to you. Thank you very much for your time. If there's any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Again, thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful day, stay safe out there, and as always, don't get arrested.